everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. This is number 149, one to go for the century and a half mark. I'm Eric here in Medellin, Colombia, with my good friend AJ. And today we've got some pretty cool and interesting news and updates items to cover. And especially one big credit card offer that was announced
We've been waiting for this one
ago. And it's finally live. Went live actually on Monday evening. So that's the Inc. Business Preferred Card. We're going to dive into the card benefits and help you break down whether this one makes sense for you as a choice for a new business card. We've also got a couple of interesting promotions that there may be opportunities to buy miles and get a big discount on business class flights. And just, some other interesting assorted news. I want to make sure we don't forget to get to the thing with the Cairo, the Egyptian.
Yes, we can't forget about that. This is interesting.
We had some crazy exchange rate fluctuations going on. And this is actually sort of old news. We missed talking about this last week, but the opportunity is still there. So anyways, we are going to get to that and much more. We're also going to be wrapping up the show with an excellent interview with Johannes Koppel from WeTravelcom. And I really enjoyed this conversation, so I'm excited to share this. He's a very sharp guy, and it just has put together a super impressive team and are solving a really interesting problem in organizing travel.
Yeah, it seems like the problem that they're solving is not the most obvious of problems. It's a behind-the-scenes thing. It's something as a consumer and as a traveler, it's not that obvious. But we'll let him explain it. He can explain it better than me.
Yes, we will. So anyway, stay tuned. That'll be at the end of the show. And all of the notes are going to be at abroaders.com/wetravel. And a quick apologies. We did get a bunch of emails from you guys letting us know that we had not gotten our show notes up a week ago. So apologies for that, and we'll make sure this one is up there in case you are looking for any of the links from the news and updates today.
Yeah, man. Before we dive into the news and updates, we should also let everyone know that we almost have the complete team here in Medellin.
We do.
Right now, downstairs is Janelle and George. A lot of you have probably some of you have probably dealt with Janelle before, and if you're curious, she is just as sweet and kind, as sharp in person as she, we get so much great feedback from how great she is to work with, and that's just how she is as a person.
Yeah, it's been fun. So Janelle, for those of you who don't know, is in charge of our booking team, and so she is the person who is fielding all the booking requests, answering questions for folks that are Abroaders members. We offer unlimited booking support by email, so Janelle does a ton of work just helping people book their own tickets, and then some folks have us do all the work for booking the tickets. So anyways, it's been a huge, just a wonderful week to have
it's been great.
Her in town and be able to actually just talk through a bunch of new ideas that we have, talk through some strategies. Today we were talking about how we might be able to help more people find tickets by sort of being able to look up all the travel plans that we have in the Abroaders app and alert people. And that actually ties into this fare thing with the exchange rate fluctuation in Egypt. Because if we were a little bit further along in the app,
we would be able to alert the people that have travel plans for there, and they would have had a chance to buy a really cheap business class flight.
Anyway, so cool stuff coming. It's been great being here with Janelle, and then George is also here, and that made this conversation today even better because George is the person that's got to actually
He's the technical
this
man.
Guy. So it's been a very productive week, and I can say with a lot of confidence that things are really going well, and that
moving in the right direction.
What we're building.
Definitely.
Can't wait to get this tool and these resources into the hands of people who are trying to use points for travel, because I think this is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I do too, man. All right, well, let's get started with some credit card offers. So Eric alluded to the Chase Inc. Preferred Business Card, which is a really exciting offer. We're going to touch on that at the end of news and updates. But we have some other good news. United has kicked up their business card to 50,000 points. It previously was 30,000 points. So now you're looking at 50,000 United Mileage Plus miles after $3,000 spend. So we've seen this offer here before. It's been one of those offers that, is it 50K, then they drop it to 30K, then you just kind of wait until they tell you it's not 30K, and that time is now. So that's back up to 50K. 524 does apply, so want to really pick your spots carefully with this one if you're pushing 524.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here with the United Plus, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating that this came out at the same time as the new 80K offer for the business preferred, because it's definitely an either or. So one thing just to be aware when we move on to talking about the new card product in a little bit, that you're not going to be able to get 2 business cards from Chase on the same day. Ideally, you want to give it at least 30 days in between, and probably better to give it 60 or more. So I think this is a really good fit if you have not enough spend to be able to reach the full spending requirement for the Ink Business Preferred. And so if you know you can hit 3,000, but you're not sure if you can get to 5,000, that could be a good reason to go with this one. Other than that, though, I think that the other offer is definitely the one to go for if you've got room in your Chase portfolio. I guess the one other swing here is that I do believe that the annual fee is waived for the first year with this 50K offer for the United card. So, and I'm positive the Ink Business Plus does charge the $95 fee the first year. So that's another swing with this card as well. But a little bit lower bonus, and this is a product that's been around for a long time, so you can always potentially pick it up later.
Yeah, absolutely. Next thing we've got here is some opportunities with miles. We talk about buying miles a lot, and I feel like we've been banging the same drum forever where you don't want to speculatively buy them, but there's a nice promotion with American Airlines, and depending on what you're looking to do, this could be a really nice way to sneak into a deeply discounted business class flight if you buy with the redemption in mind. If you really love points and you've got money, you can get them down to 1.9 cents per point if you drop a lot of money, which is like close to $5,000, but it's a sliding scale. So the way that the AA bonus works is the more you buy, the bigger discount you get at the entry level point. If you buy 10,000 miles, that's going to be 2.78 cents per point. That's not a good deal. It's very few situations you want to buy at that. But if you go all the way up to buying 150,000, you get 100,000 bonus miles, and that brings us down to about 1.9 cents per point, and that would cost you $4,700. So that's quite a bit of money. But if you're somebody that flies business class, this is a great chance to take a quick peek at availability. If there's some availability, price it out, buy your miles, redeem them, and you can probably save a couple $1,000s on a business class flight depending on the carrier.
Yeah, the good thing about American is that they do still have those 5-day holds. So if you find the availability, you should be able to put the flight on hold and then buy the miles and get them to post. Now, there's no guarantees, but these mileage transactions are transacted through American Airlines, which is unlike most of the buy points usually are from points.com, which means that you get an airfare bonus if you are using a card that gets extra points per dollar spent on travel spend. So Amex Platinum card, the personal version, gets 5x. That's a really good way to do it. There's a bunch of cards that get 3. And so, if that's something that you're looking at, this could be a good deal. If you max out the promotion, you're going to get 250,000 points, which is enough for a good number, a couple of business class tickets round trip, and some extra bonus miles if you use a card that gets extra points per spend.
Yep. This isn't the only action that's going on with points right now. We've got a promotion from Aeroplan. They're trying to get those hotel points into their program, and they're offering the same idea, a sliding scale bonus on your transfer points, starting at 2,500 points all the way up to 200,000 points. So the bonus actually is not as big of a sliding scale as the AA thing. So you get a 20% bonus on miles you bring in from the hotel points like Marriott or SPG. You do need to know that there's going to be different rates there based on the nature of those programs. But from 2,500 to 99,999 miles, you're going to get a 20% bonus. And to max it out and to get your 30% bonus, you're looking at 200,000 plus miles moving to Aeroplan from the hotels.
Yeah, and so I guess what I would say here is that Starwood's definitely the best transfer ratio, right? So Starwood points transfer at 1-to-1, and you get that bonus if you transfer in increments of 20,000. And so with this particular promotion, you could end up transferring, if you've got somewhere in the 100,000 to 180,000 SPG points, this could be a way that you may be able to really maximize the value of those points if you've got bookings that you can make with the Star Alliance airline through Aeroplan.
Right.
So I think that the other hotel partners probably don't work out to be very good, or you're going to have a huge number of points to be able to actually trigger the bonus. But this is a pretty good deal with the Starwood by itself. And I was looking at a post that I think we're not going to get into a ton of detail, but I do want to let you guys know it will be in the show notes. It's got the logistics sort of for how to work this out. But the way it prices out, you can basically get 220,000 miles by transferring just 140,000 Starwood points. Mm-hmm. And so that could be a really good deal if you hit the right threshold. Round trip US to Europe is as low as 55 with United. So that's a pretty awesome deal. And just as a reference point, we've also got a list of Star Alliance airlines that have limited or no fuel surcharges. So Aeroplan is one of those programs that does pass through fuel surcharges, which can make the out-of-pocket costs a little bit more expensive on those tickets. And so we'll post that list. But as far as Europe goes, you're looking for Brussels, Egypt Air, Scandinavian or Swiss, Turkish, or United. Those are the major airlines that don't have fuel surcharges that are, if they have them, they're small.
Right.
So that'll save you some cash.
Not game changers. Man, while we're on the Aeroplan topic, as far as award availability goes, there's some good news with them. So Air Canada just opened up a new flight from Vancouver to Frankfurt. So I guess the big key takeaways here are you got another way to get from the Americas to Europe. And you got, for Star Alliance, it looks really good. And the nice thing is this is business class availability. So that's just another way in business class to get from the Americas to Europe. And this isn't limited to just if you have Aeroplan miles. This is a Star Alliance thing. So that means that for those people that have United miles, you're also going to benefit from this being able to possibly work that angle to Europe.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that's super relevant. At least in our app, we've got a ton of people that are traveling from North America to Europe. So if you have Chase points, that goes to either United or Singapore. Our opportunities to book this. If you got Amex, you can transfer to Aeroplan or ANA or Singapore. So lots of different ways to make either your transferable points, or if you just have United, obviously that works nice and easy too. So hopefully some of you guys can grab those business class tickets. The big availability window that's usually more challenging is summer. And so it looks like June is wide open. So there's lots of places where, especially if you're somewhere on the West Coast, so you should be able to scoot on up to Vancouver and get a flight from there over to Europe in business class at a really good price.
Mm-hmm. Next thing we've got here is Marriott offering a Cyber Monday discount. So we're going to touch on this really quick. The key takeaway is you've got up to 25% discount on hotels. And this looks good because things are pricing out in really big markets, the places that are normally very expensive like Paris, Toronto, LA, Miami, New York. You got a chance to stay at a Marriott for under $100, which is really rare to find. As far as the details of this promotion goes, it's for stays between December 9th through March 31st of 2017. So if you're going to be traveling to one of those cities or a big expensive city and you want to stay in a decent hotel, it's going to be pretty good value.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so the next story is not really loyalty program related, but I thought it was kind of interesting. It might be worth at least giving a quick mention. So I read that the Berlin metro system, the subway network in Berlin, is going to be introducing some retro 1950s era subway cars and putting them back into service. And essentially have kind of redone the interior a little bit for safety features and stuff.
I would imagine.
It's going to be the original, car. It's going to have some character. And the thing I thought that was most interesting is that they did this in part because they were experiencing a bit of a pinch in terms of capacity. They didn't have enough cars already available, and so they decided to grab these 1950 eras one out of the museum and put them into service.
So much Berliner ingenuity. It is so Berlin, man. The city's got such a reputation for things like this that are kind of eccentric and odd, but completely functional and make plenty of good sense, man. It's like it's like the cafes there, it's like the nightlife there, the venues. It's just all odd, but it all works, and it's just no surprise that out of all the cities in the world, Berlin says, now we've got some vintage cable cars in the museum that we'll brush up and we'll toss them into production. So I found that really interesting. If anyone's in Berlin, please let us know if you have an opportunity to experience this.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Egypt currency crisis.
Yeah, man. So what we've got is a situation where a country's economic misfortune with their currency has really impacted the price of flights. And as bad as it is for the Egyptians right now, for people that are willing to buy flights, it's looking really good. Man, we've got business class in Qatar. How much is it going for?
I mean, so first of all, we're recording this Monday night, so it's the 14th right now. So this will be out in a couple of days here. And this news actually broke, or this currency issue happened last week. So the prices have actually survived for quite a long time. They're not quite as good as they were, but we were seeing at the very beginning business class in the $1,200 range round trip. And now the best ones I could find from Cairo to big cities in the US, New York, LA, was still under $1,400, and on really nice airlines, like talking about on Qatar, for example.
I mean, what would that flight on Qatar normally cost? Maybe $5,000, $4,000,
$4,000, something. Yeah. And so here's the deal. Like basically, the Egyptian pound used to be pegged to the dollar, and it was pegged at about £8 per dollar, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the black market rate was just going through the roof, and the currency they just couldn't maintain the peg any longer. And so they let it float, and now it's exchanging for like 15 pounds per dollar. So it's
almost got chopped in half.
Almost doubled the value of the dollar against this. And what happened is the airfares haven't adjusted yet.
Here's a question: Did the election have anything to do with Egypt? I mean, the timing of that is
it's close. But I don't know. I didn't see anything about why that happened. I think it was sort of an ongoing pressure. But at any rate, if somebody does know more about the political details, we'd love to hear about it. And secondly, if you're looking for tickets, especially business class, and by the way, this does apply to economy too. There's a ton of like $450, $500 economy round trips. So this is the type of thing that does get fixed. And so if you got plans for either Africa or the Middle East or even Europe, this could be a really good way to get very, very close.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get from Cairo to, I mean, that's pretty much in the middle of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So you've got a lot of options of how you
can
launch this. Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the ink card.
Yeah, let me get some intro here, because I think you've taken a little bit of a deeper dive on the details. So what we got here is a really exciting new offer from Chase. It's the Ink Preferred card, and it has an 80,000 ultimate reward bonus after spending $5,000 within the first 90 days. As you can imagine, they've spiced it up. We've got some good bonus categories. We got 3x points on the first 150,000 combined in spending on travel, shipping, cable, phone, advertising. So for all of you entrepreneurs out there that buy Facebook ads or Google ads, that is a possible way for you to print some miles. So yeah, 80,000 points after $5,000 spend. Exciting new offer, new product.
Yeah, so let's talk about, I mean, I guess the first thing that's kind of different about this one is the 3x points per dollar on the first 150 in combined and then a bunch of categories.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that super attractive compared to some of the other ones, because most of the other cards that we've come across have been, up to 50,000 spend gets 3x bonus in this category, and then another 50,000 spend in this other category gets 3x, and you got to keep track of have I maxed out my spend. So I really like this one just in the sense of, okay, travel, the phone, internet, cable, shipping, and advertising, all of that together, you get up to $150,000 worth of spend that gets 3x points. Mm-hmm. So a chance to earn almost $500,000 points in the bonus category here. The other thing about this card is that, as far as I could tell, the protections that come along with it are as good or better than the Sapphire Reserve for almost in every category. And this is a card with a $95 annual fee, not the $450 fee. Now, granted, the Sapphire Reserve comes with a bunch of other really good benefits like lounge access that this doesn't have. But in terms of the level of travel and purchase protections, I was really impressed by the details that came out with this card. It seems like they've sort of gone with the max level that I've seen on any Chase products whatsoever for all the categories.
Yeah, all right, let's start with the travel protection. So starting with trip cancellation, we've got up to 5,000.
Yep, and so that's for hotels and flights that aren't refundable if your trip has to be canceled for a covered reason.
Mm-hmm. Next one, trip delay, 500 per ticket, so per passenger if you're delayed 12 hours or more or overnight. Man, I'm curious, what would they define as overnight?
Yeah, well, I assume overnight at the airport that you're staying at. So, I mean, I think the point is that they'll cover a hotel if you got to stay at a hotel.
Right.
So I think that's sort of where the overnight, if you're not delayed a full 12 hours, but you're delayed 7 hours or 8 hours, and it happens to be in traditional overnight category hours, I think you're covered there.
All right, man, I'm going to quiz you on something here. So the next two things I want to talk about are baggage delay and lost luggage. So if your luggage is lost, that will mean at some point you at least thought it was delayed. So we've got
That's a good point.
We've got baggage delay for $100 a day for 5 days, and then lost luggage $300,000 per passenger. And I'm pretty sure how that works is you don't say, "Hey, my bag was lost, give me my $3,000." You say, "Hey, I had this expensive watch in there, and I had this." So you get covered up to $3,000. So hypothetically, does that mean that lost luggage is essentially up to $3,500?
That's a good question. I doubt that they would limit your coverage for a lost luggage claim based on getting a baggage delay claim too.
Yeah.
Because the point of the baggage delay is
to cover your costs.
Buy a new toothbrush, buy more clothing if you don't have your warm jacket or something that you needed. So that's more or less what that's for. But I think that's really good. The $3,000 per passenger for luggage is definitely a good one. I mean, you should probably not be carrying more than $3,000 worth of stuff.
But I mean, some people are forced to. Let's say that you're moving, and you're going to bring some important stuff on the plane. So that's nice. The final one, I want to quiz you on this again. So we've got travel accident up to $500,000. Do you know if this is like the Sapphire Preferred, where there's some pretty funny exemptions where if you're participating in, I wanted to say one of them was along the lines of like racing a rocket ship or something. Like it was something that
rocket-propelled
vehicles.
Yeah, I didn't read this. I usually get to the part where it says dismemberment, and I just think, well,
at that point,
I'm really
money that's not going to really solve the problem.
But I think in summary for the travel protections, they're very strong compared to other ones. And one thing, by the way, if you either are not eligible for this card, maybe you're not able to get it because you have more than 5 new cards open in the last 2 years, these types of protections are on almost all rewards credit card products. And this one is a little bit better in some terms. They offer $5,000 where a lot of cards offer $1,000, stuff like that. So the coverage is a little more robust. But hopefully you can learn something even if you have no intention of getting this card, because almost all of these categories of protections are on these rewards cards. And I would say, in my lifetime, I've probably had at least $4,000 of claims from this type of thing. So let's talk about the purchase protection ones. There's a new one in here that I've never seen before with any credit card product, and it's to protect your cell phone.
Yeah, this one is great. So you get up to $600 per claim in cell phone protection against theft or damage or anything. So this is really nice, and this is something we're talking about before we started recording. The most attractive part of this is if you pay your phone bill with this new credit card, you're covered. So, I mean, if your phone is past warranty or you're out of that grace period, as long as you pay your Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever bill with this card, you're covered up to $600 a pop. There is a $100 deductible, but the fact is you get 3 claims per year for 12 months.
And I assume that that's in place because lots of people will pay for company cell phone plans for lots of employees.
Right.
So they're giving you, a little bit of leeway. I'm sure they would be a little concerned if you personally smashed your phone 3 times. But the other thing that's rare is, this covers damage and theft.
Yeah.
And so those are the 2 ways that phones get broken that are not covered by most other stuff. I have a phone in my drawer right now with a cracked screen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to cost at least $300 to fix, and so this could be really good. This is a reason, in addition to the 80,000 bonus points, that I would get this card right away.
I can think about so many people, so many of our listeners who are entrepreneurs and travelers that have had their phones stolen. And it is just a huge nightmare.
What was it, Kunkel that had his phone in his hand and the motorbike guy just go by?
So the past 2 years when I was in Ho Chi Minh City, each time the person I was traveling with had their cell phone stolen out of their hand. The first time was our friend Kunkel, and he was going to take a photo, and a guy on a motorbike just like jetted in and out of traffic, went by, snatched it with his hand, and drove away. And a guy tried to do that to me as well, but I had my guard up after Kunkel was a guinea pig and lost his phone. And then would have been last year in Saigon, our friend Scott was trying to hail an Uber, pulled out his phone to get an Uber, motorbike when Bai took it, he would have loved to have had this card back then to at least get something.
Yeah, careful with those phones in Ho Chi Minh City. There's definitely people are on the lookout for folks not paying attention. Anyways, moving on from that, there's some other good purchase-related protections on here. There's $10,000 in purchase protection for the first 120 days. It's a $50K limit for the account as a whole, but this is rare, and that's one of the reasons why I was saying, again, the benefit is a higher value than a lot of other cards I've seen. So most cards have $1,000 max on purchase protection, which means if you buy a new MacBook Pro computer or something like that, you're not going to be covered for the full value of the computer.
Right.
And so this is a really big deal to me to have a card that doesn't have a super high annual fee. Because the Amex Platinum $450 fee card has 10K coverage, but if you cancel the card to avoid the fee after a year, then you're out of luck
if consumers were more informed, or just we all had more time to learn all these things, having a card like this and paying your $95 a year is way cheaper than insuring your shit.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so there's that. There's a couple of other ones. There's an extended warranty policy, which is super common. Basically, just tack 1 year onto the warranty for anything you buy with the card. And then there's two other ones that are kind of rare that I thought were nice add-ons. One of them is price protection, which is up to $500 per item. And it says basically if within 90 days you see something that you bought with your card advertised for cheaper, which includes online advertising, you can get the difference back. Which is great. So no more regret, no more fear of buying something.
Here's a question for you. This is a little bit of speculation. Let's say somebody gets this card before Black Friday.
Yep.
So does that mean that somebody can say, screw the lines and all the people, I'm going to buy these things and I think they'll go on sale.
Oh my gosh.
Check if they went on sale.
Brilliant.
And then now you beat the rush.
That is the best Black Friday strategy I've ever heard. That's brilliant. So the limit is $500.
So, I mean,
item,
you can't buy
$2,000 per year.
But I mean, if you're going to buy something that, a gadget or something, if you're getting...
yes. Can you imagine the difference between like waiting outside of the Best Buy at 4 a.m. and trying to elbow through all these people to get the one damn thing when you could go 4 days before Thanksgiving and buy the same shit at twice the price and then just come back?
Yeah. And the beauty of this is you're buying it on a credit card, and if you check in on the price and that item happens to have not been deeply discounted and you happen to have spent more than you wanted to spend, then you just return the thing.
Great segue, AJ. This card also offers return protection. Now, most merchants are going to take items back as long as they're undamaged or unopened in the first 90 days. But assuming you buy something from a merchant that doesn't want to take the item back, Chase will pick up the bill for you. And that's up to $500 per item, up to $1,000 per year. So if you want to return something and you're not able to because they won't take it back, Chase will cover it and they'll write you a check. I assume they're going to make you mail in the item or whatever.
Many retailers can bully consumers, but not many retailers can go hand in hand with Chase. Man, looking at all this, with a $95 annual fee, per dollar spent on your annual fee, is there a better card?
I don't think so. I do think that the Sapphire Reserve is probably a better card just in terms of what I use, because I always will use the $300 travel credit. That's a no-brainer.
Lounge access.
The lounge access makes the difference in that one. But this is a really good business card. The cell phone protection is a big deal to me. And so just to recap, I don't think we've talked a ton about the Chase application rules, so we didn't want to make this episode be a deep dive on that. But you're eligible for this card. If you have had other Chase Ink cards, you're still okay. This is a new product. The only real restriction here is that you cannot have opened more than 4 cards in the last 2 years. So if you open 4 cards amongst any bank in the last 2 years, you're good. If you've opened 5, you're not going to get approved until one of those new accounts goes outside of the 2-year window. There's one exception to that, and so this is important. Business cards from banks other than Chase don't count. So if you opened a Citi business card, if you opened an Amex business card, using your EIN as the tax ID, so using your business tax ID rather than your social, then you won't have to count those. So you could technically have opened 6 cards in the last 2 years, and as long as 2 of them are non-Chase business, you're good. So hopefully a lot of you guys are still eligible for this. I think this is definitely a really good choice. The bonus, you can literally withdraw the bonus points for $800 cash, which would be a very bad use of those points. But I think the point is there's real value here. You can get that money as cash for $800. You could use it as crappy redemptions through Chase's travel portal and get $1,000 off, or you could redeem it using the strategies that we talk about.
Yeah, depending how you look at it,
you should get $2,000.
There's a lot of ways to win. I mean, you could pay the $95 annual fee for over 8 years, and it's just like a little interest-free loan if you cashed out your points right now. But yeah, great card, great offer. We will link to it in the show notes. And if we happen, I don't know if our partners have a link to this. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to get you guys a link that would be able to get us a commission on it. But if not, we'll toss up a link either way. And best of luck with your applications.
Awesome. All right, so that's going to do it for news and updates. Let's get to this interview. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking with Johannes Koppel. He's originally from Switzerland and worked for 5 years with various airlines and group travel operators. He then moved to Swaziland to work with Doctors Without Borders, and after that worked for the International Red Cross in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, visiting political prisoners and managing a team of 14. A few years ago, he moved back to California to do his MBA at Berkeley and start the company WeTravel. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I guess to start, can you give us a quick introduction to WeTravel? What do you guys do and who is it for?
Absolutely. So WeTravel is a platform for organizers of group trips. If you're a semi-professional or a professional group trip organizer, you kind of always deal with three distinct problems. First, it's really hard to market your trip. Second, it's really a pain in the ass to collect money because you normally first do a deposit and then go back and collect more money. And third, it's really hard to coordinate a group if the group gets a bit larger. So we created a platform where people can market, collect money, and coordinate their whole group for any group trip. Think of it if you would like the X for Y, as an Eventbrite or an Evite, but specifically for group travel.
That makes a ton of sense. This is actually something that I really wish you guys had been around like 10 years ago, because I took on a responsibility to help organize a ski club trip when I was a sophomore at Michigan. And it turned out to be just such a huge undertaking to be able to coordinate with, hundreds of students who are doing this. So I definitely can identify with the problem that you guys are solving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually interesting. So student kind of turned out by coincidence to be one of our first target market. We didn't really build the product for it, but we built it while we were in school at Berkeley. And then within the first year, and we just released a very basic MVP, it didn't really work really well yet, but it just took off. People saw the value in it, and kind of we spread to all top 10 business schools in the US, although we didn't really plan to do that initially.
Very cool. So I always find that really interesting, because I've found in my conversations with other entrepreneurs that often the person or the group of customers that you think you might be building something for either don't turn out to be exactly the right match, or you open up something that comes out to be a much different market as well that you can also go after. Can you tell me a little bit about the evolution? When did you find out that you really had something that people were desiring, and are there any other groups that have maybe been unexpected folks that took advantage of the product you were building?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take you a bit back. So it's very true, this focus on different customer groups that a lot of startups get into. For me, it was the following. I really had the idea for WeTravel when I was organizing group trips myself in Swaziland and Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, where I worked. Kind of on the side, I was organizing these fun trips for people from Europe. And back then, I really saw the need for a platform for group trips that are organized by individuals, individual guides, not necessarily the big tour agencies we work for, but right there by the person that actually does it, that knows the location best, and that actually might want to put together a slightly different itinerary than what is normally just sold on the market. That was the initial concept. As I already mentioned, that once we started building it, it really took off among students. As we then wanted to kind of expand again back to the kind of more the original target audience, we realized relatively quickly that the market we were targeting initially, tour guides, is way too big for a small startup to take on.
Sure.
Right? It's such a massive market to make any significant dent and to get any name recognition from a significant amount of people that will use you is impossible in such a huge market. You got to go smaller. And what happened naturally for us is that after students started using us, we looked a bit around and said, okay, who else is using our product? And we realized a lot of yoga teachers were using us. And that was another one of these aha moments, right? It's totally not the target audience we initially built the product for, but it turns out it's the huge value prop. They kind of fit the descriptions of what we wanted to bring to market anyway. So these are normally people that do it semi-professionally as part of their job. They're normally full-time yoga teachers. And a couple of times a year, they do these really cool yoga retreats. But it's normally messy. They normally have not really a good system in place yet. Their marketing is really difficult still. There's not that many marketplaces for yoga retreats out there yet, so it's still a relatively open space. And it turned out to be a really, really good niche for us now.
That's awesome. And I think that's something that is super easy to overlook at the beginning. And, you've got a product that's duct taped together and you're really trying to work on what you think are sort of the next milestones, next objectives, and to stop and step back for a second and take a look at who your early adopters are. That's really cool that you guys were able to identify, a particular group. And, it seems like that's sort of something that lends itself really well to the type of product that you guys have built. So it seems like there's some really nice alignment where, the person who's planning the trip wants to be able to share information about the itinerary. And it seems like, from my limited experience playing around with the product, there's a ton of customization and sort of abilities to communicate what's going on with the trip in a way that would be really hard to do by email or, using other tools that are already out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really want to be there for the organizers as well. We also have plans to go more into the communication during the trip, photo sharing, etc. Because there's a lot of stuff that is done manually that could definitely be streamlined and taken off the back of the organizer.
Makes sense. Tell me a little bit about the different features for the product. So if I'm an organizer, I can create my own trip, but I also noticed as I was just browsing around that it looks like you can sort of jump on and join a trip that somebody else is organizing. So it's kind of turned you guys into a marketplace where folks can find trips that might appeal to them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really also based out of the wish of the organizers, right? A lot of the yoga retreat organizers said, hey, look, it's great. I mean, I love your tool. It's really useful for me. But I would love to get more exposure as well. How can you help me in that regard? And this is where we will probably focus quite a bit of energy on. But it kind of comes naturally. We have all these amazing individuals that organize these trips, and these trips are extremely hard to find. They don't work for a travel agency. They don't do it with a big budget. They're just a passionate yoga teacher that has their following and that love what they're doing. And these are trips that are desirable. And if we can help them to get an additional 1, 2, 3 travelers to fill their retreat, I mean, we enable them to do even more retreats and to do even better retreats. It's definitely something we want to go into. We first and foremost want to be a tool for whoever organizes these trips. But if by being that, we attract such a great offering that people actually want to join these trips, and this is what's starting to happen now, then of course we're extremely happy about it and grateful to be able to help these organizers even further.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always exciting when you really start to feel that momentum, and it's not just the people that you built the product for the original problem, but you start to be able to make their lives easier in lots of different ways. That's really exciting. I'm sure very motivated for you and your team.
Yeah, totally.
So tell me a little bit about the business model. How do you guys make money by helping to organize these trips?
Absolutely. So we really have 3 revenue streams. Currently, as we're still a relatively young startup, we are still very cost efficient for the organizers. We haven't turned on all our revenue streams yet. We're still mainly focused on growth. So if you're an organizer, now is a very good time to join WeTravel, as you can still profit from these very good rates that we offer. We have 3 revenue streams. First, we sell travel insurance and auxiliary projects around the travel in general. Second, we also connect for example, a yoga teacher or a big student trek leader to DMCs and travel agencies on the ground, or maybe to a yoga retreat center on the ground. And then if we successfully connect these two, we take a fee from the DMC that we connect the organizer to.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense. Just to clarify, so basically you've got contacts in a bunch of the places where other trips have been organized, and if the trip organizer needs help getting set up with accommodation or activities and stuff like that, you guys already have some of the connections to introduce them and put them in contact with folks that can help improve the quality of the trip.
Exactly, because often, for example, a yoga teacher does a retreat always at the same retreat center, but they want to switch things up a bit, but they don't really know where to go. There's so many, it's hard to choose. And since we have so many of the organizers that tell us, hey, this retreat center was fantastic, we ask them after every trip, hey, how was the retreat center? Can you give us a short rating for it? We can then pass this knowledge along to other organizers. This is not knowledge we want to have public. We don't have to create a review system for all these suppliers. But we want to pick the best ones where we think the price is right and they provide excellent service, and recommend them to other people, and for them to become kind of a recommended partner of us.
Okay, that makes sense. So insurance, and then connecting folks with operators on the ground. And then what's the third one?
The third one we haven't activated yet, but the third one we see as kind of a marketplace fee, meaning that, hey, you can use our awesome booking system for free. We won't charge you for that. But the moment we bring in more traveler to your trip, the moment we bring you additional customers and therefore also additional revenue, we will charge a certain percentage fee for that service.
Okay, so that makes sense. So that was what we were talking about before, where you've got folks that are browsing around the website, and exactly. I would have never heard of this particular yoga retreat, but it sounds like exactly what I was looking for. If I end up signing up and pay the operator, the fee for the tour, then you guys get a percentage of that.
Exactly, but if the yoga retreat leader does all the marketing themselves, we don't want to take 10% or whatever it might be from them, because that would not be fair, obviously.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine a lot of folks, probably bring in, existing businesses that they were grinding through setting up and organizing these trips without your tool. So they've probably already got some established customers that come back every year. So that model, makes a lot of sense to me in a way that doesn't scare folks away, that you're taking a piece of something they've already been working on, but you're also helping them to make more money. And, I would imagine there's sort of a threshold for these trips where, if you don't get enough people, it's really hard to pull off a trip and have it be cost effective. So I imagine you guys are also probably enabling trips to actually happen that might not have ever quite reached the minimum number that they needed to make it a viable trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our hope, right? I mean, we cannot, of course, not fill, let's say, a 12-person trip if the organizer doesn't contribute a single traveler to the trip. Sure. But we have this incremental power to add a little bit more to them eventually if the offer is good and people like it. And that's really good. It's interesting because, of course, that's one thing we realized. We kind of imagined in the beginning that just anybody would put a trip on there that they might want to do. But we realized relatively quickly we have to work with people that already do this.
Yep.
It takes too much time to coach new people how to organize trips. It also they normally totally underestimate how much effort it is to get people to join such a big trip. Sure. And this is why by now with yoga teachers, but of course in the student market as well, but also with the other trips we have on there, we have dance trips to Cuba, we have treks in the Himalaya. All these people are normally experienced trip leaders that have already done this before, and we kind of help them with incremental revenue and with just a much better way to organize everything. Very
cool. So I guess my next question, tell me about your plans for the future. I know you had said that growth is your big priority right now. What's your biggest challenge to getting to the next milestone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we are still a bit struggling with, and it's a weird thing to mention, but I think a lot of startups struggle with, is really to take this ability and say, we will now really focus on this.
Yep.
Right? Because there's so many different people that organize group trips. I mean, almost every week I hear somebody saying, hey, you should use this for fill in the blank. You know, like food treks to whatever, film festival excursions to whatever.
Yep.
It's a great target market. And we kind of ran after each of them a little bit too much for the last half year or 9 months. And one of the really challenges that we have for the future is to say, okay, we now have a really good product market fit in this one area. It's the first niche. It's our first bowling ball, right? It's the first area where we actually get in and have the success. And then once we capture that market, then we can expand into other markets.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and I certainly identify with that. That easy, ability to be distracted by shiny objects. It's something that we're really trying to do as well with the Broaders, where we've had tons of people. We've had folks from all over the world that want help with points and miles. And we originally started out with this idea of like, okay, let's start in the U.S. Let's try and learn everything we need to about that market and help folks there. And so I definitely can identify with just energy and time and resources being constantly kind of pulled at different things that seem exciting, but you just really can't focus on everything at once.
Yeah, I can totally imagine, especially for Brothers, right? I mean, your audience is potentially everyone.
Yes.
Right? So, like, where do you spend your customer acquisition dollars? And to really get this right, and to get the most out of whatever you spend on is extremely difficult. And of course, as a startup, there's always doubt, right? You make so many decisions every day. You certainly know what I'm talking about. And often you ask yourself at night, was that the right decision? And the truth is, you'll probably never know.
Yeah. Yep. Just find out through that trial and error. The last question I wanted to ask you about, it looks like you guys have assembled a really cool team, very diverse, and bring together a lot of travel experience. And I just truly had a blast reading your About Us page. Tell me about that experience. How did you guys all come together, and what are you looking for when you recruit as you guys expand?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this has just been, I've been so fortunate at Redguard, and here I'm also thankful to being in the right place. I think despite all its drawbacks, such as high salary and really high cost of living, the Bay Area is still such a magnet for people that want to try new things, brilliant people that want to try new things. I was fortunate to meet my co-founder, Garib, who's our CTO, in my first year that I moved here, a couple of months after I moved here. I mean, the guy was CTO of the largest bank in Azerbaijan when he was 22 in his home country, then moved here and founded and sold a company, and then quit his really high-paid job as a senior engineer at a large IT company to jump into this adventure that was way before we had any funding, right? Yeah. And to find people like this is just extremely rare. We then added a classmate of mine from Berkeley, Zaki. He's from Indonesia originally, ex-McKinsey, then worked for the president there for a while as an aide, and then co-founded a marketplace for NGOs and local volunteers in Indonesia. So also extremely high-caliber people who just said, yes, no, we're willing to do this. We're willing to jump into this experiment with you. I think what's really the one key thing, and probably that should be the key thing in any startups, is what we're looking for is hustlers, right? Because in the end, you have the people that build the product. We have our engineers, and they have to be good engineers. And then you have the people that sell it. And the truth is, even engineers sometimes sell the product. Sure. Right? So everybody, we don't look for credentials. We don't care what school you went to, although we happen to have pretty good schools in our team. But that's really more kind of by coincidence or the byproduct than what we were selecting for, right? Yeah. If you can prove to us that you can put your head down and just ran against the wall 100 times and still get up and do it again, because that's what it's like to work for a startup. Yeah. If you prove to us that you do this, then you're not too into the strategic thinking and what we should do, but actually just, okay, let's just try this out and let's do it, and then try it 100 times, then it's probably a good fit. Yeah, that's very cool. I think there's a big misconception about the amount of trial and error involved, even when you've got highly qualified people that have been through the process with other either big companies or have gone through the process with other startups. Even when you have an assembled group of amazing talent, it's still just a matter of really having to find out by trial and error and make a bunch of mistakes and figure out how to work together to redirect the focus. Absolutely. And also, what you just have to be very comfortable with working in an environment where what you sell and what you do is, first of all, extremely uncertain and probably also not very good. You're a 6 or 8 people startup. You will not have the perfect product you want to sell to your customers, but you still have to make it work. Yeah, absolutely. Right, and then, you grow and you grow, but it's really that hustle mentality to just go out there and do it and sell and get people to use it and be excited about it every day, that it's important. For us, what also happened is because we're a travel startup, we attracted a lot of people that were just passionate by the space. So that's how come we speak like a combined, I think by now we're like at 21 languages, so it's ridiculous. And probably like 90% of the countries on this world visited.
Yeah.
But that's just also by who we attract, right? As being in the travel space, we're definitely, we normally don't attract people that are very motivated by money.
Yep.
We offer other things. We offer flexibility. We offer great team retreats that we go on together.
Which honestly is such a great way to be able to compete, especially if you're based in an area like San Francisco, where there's a ton of competition and there's a ton of big, very well-funded companies that are always after that top talent. I think it says a lot about your company culture, and like that was actually one of the first things I noticed when you reached out to us is that you guys mentioned how many languages your team speaks, and I thought that was so cool because that's something that we really value as well. It's super exciting and one of my favorite parts about traveling to try and acquire language. I'm really excited to see what you guys where you guys progress because it seems like you've got an amazing team and a very cool product. Yeah, no,
I really love my job. That's so rare to say it right.
Yeah, it is.
I get up in the morning motivated. It's a pleasure and it's a privilege as well.
Awesome. Well, the site is WeTravel.com. It's super easy to get started. So if you do plan group trips or if you're looking for a trip, I highly encourage you guys to check it out. Johannes, if folks have specific questions for you, maybe want to partner with WeTravel or are interested in working with you guys, how can they get in contact?
Sure. You can always contact us at info@wetravel.com. Or you can just send me an email directly if you listen to the end of this podcast. My email is Johannes, JOHANNES, @wetravel.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, Eric. It was a pleasure. It's great to be on the show.
Awesome.
Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so